because Baba has created the very small world of Brahmins. Right? Baba has said the world of Brahmins is very small. But at the same time, Baba is creating a civilization. A civilization is a big thing. And in a civilization, you have many things. Sometimes Baba has said Baba is creating a kingdom. And so in kingdoms, there is royalty and non-royalty. They speak of royalty and common people. These are the two possibilities. And so when Baba speaks of royalty, he's talking not about the birth that you got, because we all got a divine birth. Every single one of us was given a divine birth directly by God, and that made us into Brahmins. And Brahmins are higher than deities. Deities have kingly status and Brahmins don't, but Brahmins are higher than deities. Right? So what is a royal Brahmin? Sometimes Baba says that he is creating 3 groups or 3 religions. Brahmin, deity, warrior. Yeah? And so the golden-aged type soul, who is a Brahmin, and the silver-aged type soul, who is a Brahmin. There's the 2 categories all there, right there. Sometimes people think that those who live in Madhuban or those who live in centers, they are one category, and those who live in the household are a different category. And sometimes they think one is higher than another one. But it's not really quite like that. Your category has to do with the quality that you are. So Baba often speaks to us as being diamonds. We are diamonds. Diamonds come in different qualities. There are different colors, A, B, C, D, color of diamonds. And there's also different purity of diamonds. And according to the color and the purity, such is the value of that diamond. So when we're talking about the royalty of purity, I think that it's really that the royalty has to do with the color, and the purity has to do with the flawlessness. Royalty, as Baba has very often mentioned, refers to realty. Realty, not property dealing or anything like that, but realty in the sense of real. Are you real? Or to what extent are you real? In the Spanish language, there may be some of you who know Spanish, the word for royal is actually real. So that's easy for people of that language group to get the connection. But royal means, in Baba's language, it means real. Are you real? Are you true? So if something's real, then it's not fake. So in order to see to what extent we are royal, we have to check and see to what extent we are fake and to what extent we are real. And so there is this aspect of honesty and dishonesty which is in there. So being real also means being true. So one of the ways in which we can calculate how royal we are is to what extent we are true to ourselves, to what extent we are honest with ourselves. So first of all, true to ourselves. What is the meaning of being true to ourselves? Now, first of all, we have to see what is myself. Very, very basic. What is myself? I am a pure 84 birth Brahmin soul, direct child of God, direct student of God, ancestor of the human world. That's my identity. That's your identity as well. That's not the identity of every soul on earth, but it is our identity. And so we have to be true to that identity. So it means we have to be that one that is in the process of being formed by God and being made into a god or goddess by God. So that kind of realness, that kind of royalty. And of course, purity. One of the very, very key important points of the knowledge that you learn here in Brahma Kumaris, which is completely different from the world of religions or the world of bhakti, is that God is not omnipresent. And the proof of God not being omnipresent is the qualities of God are where God is. And in the world we find many ungodly qualities, and that is the proof that God is not omnipresent. So in the same way, the qualities of us have to be evident in order for our identity to be proved. So this time Baba was saying that service is best done through your face and your behavior, your character. So if something is there in the mind, I am a pure Brahmin, 84 birth, golden-aged deity soul, that's there in the mind, but then it has to show on the face and in the activities, because that's the proof. If it's there in the mind but nowhere else, then that's the proof that it's not real. It's just a nice idea, but it's not real. And so Baba wants us to shift from the stage of having a nice idea to real. And when we are what we are, internally and externally, there isn't any difference between the two, that is called royalty. If you think about what an ideal king could be, and Baba has identified a king as being the highest possible status out of all possible statuses, as a king. And so what is a king like, the ideal king? So there are various descriptions. And a lot of them have to do with the visible expression of these identifying qualities. You see? The dignity, the inner power, the benevolence, the power to defend, protect, sustain, and inspire many, many people. This is a king. And so we are studying in this school for becoming real, for becoming royal, for becoming pure. And kings got a certain kind of pride, not pride in the sense of false pride or false ego, but this other thing called true pride, which is also called self-respect. This is an aspect of royalty and purity. So, impurity, what is that? Impurity is anything that makes you feel ashamed of what you did, or ashamed of what you continue to do, or ashamed of what you feel like doing but don't let yourself do. You see, there's this quality of shame, which is the indicator of impurity. There's shame and then guilt, these two things. Then there's unreal shame and unreal guilt, which is when somebody makes you feel that way and puts it on you. That you mustn't take. That's not real. But if really you do something which is against your conscience, you will feel guilty and you will feel ashamed. So, the one thing that makes people feel the most ashamed is when they have done something which is against the principle of celibacy. You see? And in this Brahmin civilization, this Brahmin world, very great importance is given to purity in the sense of celibacy. And there are many, many aspects of celibacy. And so we need to see what kind of celibacy we're talking about, which is called the royalty of purity. See, so simply not to engage in sexual activity is the basic, you know. But then there are many, many other levels, you see. And people have a lot of struggle with this. I remember there were some people who confided in us saying that we have this problem that we are looking in pornographic sites on internet all the time. We are Brahmins, we are doing this. I said, well, what can I say, you know? Don't do. So when you can't not do what you know to not do, you feel a lot of shame. Yes? If there's something that you do that you don't want to do, that you hide, that is against your conscience, that is against the principles and all of this, and still you do, what do you feel? You feel shame. And it's very, very difficult to hold your head high. You see? When you hold your head high and you have that pure pride that I am becoming what Baba is making me, I am following the Shrimat and my standards are day by day getting more and more refined and higher. When we first come to Gyan, the kind of purity that we practice is very gross. We say, okay, we are vegetarian, and we don't use intoxicants, we don't engage in sexual relations with other people. That's the level on which we do it. And then, as time goes by, we find that is very basic, is a very ordinary level of purity. We want to get much more refined. We want to have purity in the vibration, purity in the thought, purity in the eyes, purity in the body language, purity in the instincts, in the dreams, in every possible way, you see. And it's a continuing refinement process. This is why we spend an entire lifetime with Baba in Gyan, because it takes time to grow and mature and reach that level of perfect purity. And when you have that degree of purity, it's very angelic, it's very royal, I see. It's very, very powerful, because it creates an atmosphere of purity. That purity becomes such that it isn't possible for any impure thing to take place in your vicinity, because the power of your purity is stronger than the power of the impurity. So it takes time to build, you see. So the royalty of purity is a feeling that exudes from a person who has step by step acquired that kind of purity. So Baba has said, you don't really have to do anything, you just have to be holy and yogi. Isn't it? You used to hear that slogan quite a lot, just be holy and be yogi. That's it. There's a difference between doing something and then being something. And I'm seeing that Baba is more and more not concerned about doing, because there's a lot of activity going on. But the activity isn't really the proof of something. The beingness is the proof. And of course, we are cooperative souls in Baba's task. And so whatever activity Baba invites us to do, we will definitely do that. And of course, we will create our fortune by doing some charitable, spiritual act of service. But sometimes, in the process of doing acts of service, the quality of beingness, the royalty and the purity of one's being gets a lower quality, or sometimes might even disappear altogether. So the very important thing is not to run after service, but to try to be holy and be yogi, because that really does service. Even if you do a little thing, and you do it in that consciousness of Baba, very, very good quality soul consciousness, with the atmosphere and feeling of Baba's remembrance emanating from you as an aura or a vibration, then anyone who sees you will feel this is doing something ordinary, but yet is what Baba spoke of as a darshanya murat. someone who is like a vision. Baba spoke about this in the Murli just now, Darshanya Murat. So in every activity that we engage in, someone, either physically in front of us or maybe very far away, can see us, either directly through their eyes or indirectly in a subtle way. They will get a sense that there is a someone of a certain quality. And this is the thing that gives people hope in a hopeless world. Because what is it that people are really looking for? They're looking for the sight of someone who is connected with God. If you think about the great souls in this world since the beginning of recorded history, it's basically the founders of religions, isn't it? And what is a founder of a religion? Is someone that other people feel is connected with God, or even is a medium of God. And they say, through this person, the love of God, the words of God, the qualities of God can be seen. And so they worship that person. And Baba has said for us that what we are becoming is so extraordinary that they will make little statues of us, put them in alcoves, and worship them for thousands of years. This they do not do with football stars or movie stars or anything like that. Because those people do some display of some human talent, but there isn't purity there. There isn't that royalty of purity. What makes us worship worthy is this royalty of purity. Because this is the thing that people say, well, is beyond human. If you know the expression, the human condition, what is meant by the human condition means impurity and unroyalty. That is what is meant by the human condition. Or it's also called human failings or human weaknesses. And so they say, oh, excuse me, I'm only human. I do this, I do that, I do the other. I'm only human. But Baba has said that which you call only human, that is called unroyalty and impurity. And here, in this most unusual school, we are being empowered as well as educated to become those who are not limited by these human failings or these human conditions. And so this is called those who are being created by God. Created by God means being transformed. And so in the immediate past Avyakta Murli, Baba spoke a lot about transformation. In the Sikh scripture, it is said that it doesn't take God very much time to change an ordinary person into a deity. So it is known that this kind of thing is done. And here we are within what is called the bhatti, which is a crucible. A crucible is a little bowl in which something that is, you can say, base metal is turned into pure gold. So Baba has given all these various analogies that we have passed through the cycle of 84 births, and in the process, alloy has come into the soul. And so the soul, which was originally pure gold, like 24 karat gold, which is the equivalent of the pure diamond as a metaphor. And because of time, it's become tarnished. Because of negative karma, it has lost value. It has become impure. Royal people only wear the purest of the pure gold. The lower the status you are, the less money you have. And so you may have something which is just gold-plated, or just, dipped in. It's base metal, but it looks shiny. It glitters, but it isn't gold. And so we have that saying, all that glitters isn't gold. So someone who has the royalty of purity will not get attracted by the glitter or the glamour. That is also called Maya. That running after position, name, fame, status, stuff, all of these things are actually signs of unroyalty. Because a royal person has it from the inside as of right. You see? And so this is why Baba says very often that your relationship with Shiv Baba through Brahma Baba is a relationship in which you claim the inheritance. You claim the double inheritance. One inheritance is self-sovereignty. The other inheritance is world sovereignty. That is royalty. You cannot claim that if there is some stain in the soul, something on your conscience, some shame in the soul, I see. Now, we are not perfect at this stage. We are in the process of becoming. And it's very important to remember that. Because when you are in the process of becoming, then all of this perfection that I've been talking about is something that is indeed a nice idea. But we are aware of the impurity that we started with while we are in the process of moving towards the perfect purity and the perfect royalty. And because of this awareness, we sometimes experience a wave of memory, and we will identify with that memory and say, yeah, I did this. I feel shame. I can't make it go away. I can't make it not have happened. And so then you feel bad about the self, you see. So then the question arises, what attitude is a useful one to have when we become aware of something from the past which we feel guilty or shameful about? First of all, we have to be neutral about it. Being neutral about it means we say to ourselves, it isn't good, it isn't bad, it just is. It just is. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is. When we're aspiring towards this perfection and purity and royalty, we make judgments, and we say that is bad, and we have a habit of punishing other people or punishing ourselves, or maybe we can even use the term royal, which Baba also uses the word royal to mean something very unroyal. In a very royal way, you will cast a feeling of shame onto another person by being, as it were, holier than thou. You know that? That little game that people play with each other? Not very nice. But it's called royal because it's very refined, it's very subtle. And so the word royal even is applied to such skills. But it's not really royal. Because if someone is really royal, they will never do that to somebody else. Because it's a form of cruelty. Isn't it? Yes? Have you experienced anyone do this to you? Yes? Yes, huh? And it makes you feel very bad, but they don't actually draw blood or leave any bruises. But on the heart, plenty. You see? Huh? Doing what? In a very royal way, making a person feel bad about themselves. By your words. You know what I'm talking about? You say, okay, yes, I'm virgin. I never did anything. But you, of course, you're... that kind of thing. Yeah? And so what will you feel at that time? You'll feel bad. So this is something that we need to address, because there will be many, many challenges that come. There'll be very gross challenges and very, very subtle challenges. But Baba says, maintain your self-respect. And your self-respect, excuse me, your self-respect is connected with not buying into that kind of cruelty. Your royalty says, you say whatever you want to say, you adopt whatever attitudes you want to adopt regarding me, but I have my self-respect. And then you don't take it in. And this is very important. See? Otherwise, it's one of the things people do to each other. You know, you make another person feel bad. And this is not royalty. But you do it in a very, very subtle way. So it's called royal cruelty. Because royalty is a very subtle thing. So if we are really royal and really pure, then we will always speak to and look at another person, seeing their respect-worthy form. And we will see the soul. We will see this is a Brahmin soul, this is a very high-level soul. And when you see a person like that, what does it do? It gives them encouragement to move forward. This is royalty. This is purity. The other is competitiveness, quite vicious competitiveness. It's not royal. You see. And Baba has very often said that a royal person will put the other one forward. By putting another one forward, you do not remain suppressed or repressed or going backwards. By putting another one forward, you are doing a very royal and pure karma. So definitely you will also move forward. These are the laws of spirituality operating, not the appearances. You see? So if we are being really real and really true and really royal, then we will also be very generous. Generosity is a quality of kings. You see? And to respect who a person is a form of service. Between Brahmins, Baba has said you don't teach knowledge to Brahmins, but you inspire, you cooperate with Brahmins in their progress. This is royalty, you see. Because it's not about pushing everyone out of the way so that you can move forward. If we do that, it's very unroyal, it's very impure, and you will end up going backwards anyway, so it's meaningless activity. The royalty of purity in the interaction between and among Brahmins in this Brahmin culture, this Brahmin world, this Brahmin civilization, how we speak to each other. Other people look at that. They don't examine you closely when you're giving a lecture. They examine you closely when you're not giving a lecture, isn't it? And they see, how do you behave when you don't know somebody's watching you? And if they see that you are treating each other in a respectful, royal way, then they will say, these are the people of God. Because it's there, when you're on stage, when you're off stage. It's a natural quality. It's the hallmark of the Brahmin civilization is the way in which we treat each other. And of course we have various duties, but at all times you have to remember the royalty of our purity, the way in which we treat each other, that we are always being soul conscious and really seeing the soul. So also we cannot be having any desires, you see. We cannot say, that one looks very attractive, so let me enjoy having a fantasy about them. This is not purity. Or you will say, I didn't do anything. You did do something. You had a thought. You had a viceful, lustful thought. And believe me, it's visible in the atmosphere. You see, especially in Madhuban, this is called the Hall of Mirrors. So if anybody is eyeing somebody with the thought, this one is attractive, let me engage in a little bit of that thoughts about that person, then you're not seeing the soul, you're seeing the body, and there's a vibration that goes. That person will feel someone's looking at me in the wrong way, thinking about me in the wrong way, and others around will see that this one is thinking about that one in the wrong way. It's just visible, so don't forget. It may not be so easily visible in the what we call the outside world, because everybody's doing it all the time, so you kind of get away with it because it's camouflaged a bit, but not here. It's very, very visible. So our royalty of purity is to make sure that we don't create double standards for us, that, okay, we'll be very nice physically, but then mentally we can have a different moral category. No, that's not the royalty of purity. That's called fake, or it's called having double standards, you see. So if we have double standards, then that's a little bit alloy. So that'll be Silver Age quality, not Golden Age quality. Now, of course, some will say, I'm making effort. My mind gets pulled. I have this Maya. And so, okay, you have this Maya. But then, what kind of effort will you make so that you do not sustain the Maya? First of all, as I mentioned before, you have to be neutral about it. Because as soon as we say, this is very bad, and we start punishing ourselves, it actually intensifies the problem. So it's counterproductive. Having an attitude of neutrality towards it means that you're not trying to put the fire out by putting petrol on it. But the neutrality is a cool attitude. You say, okay, yes, all right, I saw this thing, I got attracted by this person, now stop. I'll let that go. Change the drishti. If you feel a very strong karmic account with someone, or you feel somebody is reciprocating, then you know what to do. You keep separate. Because these things are intensified by sight, intensified by interaction. And we know very well how we can minimize our involvement with the person. If there is some karmic account, some attraction. Because the nature of karmic accounts is it starts with very strong attraction. And you may not think this is a lustful attraction. You may say, oh, this person is very talented and we can do service together and all this kind of thing. But when you start to go along this thought track, then Baba isn't there, you see. Because in reality, we don't do service with other Brahmins. We do service with Baba, and there may be another Brahmin there, with whom it's necessary for us to interact accurately and harmonize sanskaras and all of this. But we don't actually do anything with anyone. We do everything with Baba. This is reality. And in that case, if the person is there or a different person is there or not there, it actually doesn't make any difference. Because we are doing whatever it is with Baba. This is the royalty of purity. If we are doing something with someone, then the royalty of purity is a little bit reduced. Because then our yoga is with that other person, and to that extent that it's with the other person, it's not with Baba. You see? And there you see the dependency coming, the attachment coming. And so we need to kind of notice these things. If we are very pure, very real, very royal, then intuitively we will know. There is something here. And okay, something is there. You have to be with that person in the same place or doing the activity, but know that there is a certain pull. Be neutral about it. And make sure that you are following Shrimat. And then that thing will evaporate. Otherwise, it will grow. You see? Or another way in which you can find out if really you are having the royalty of purity is when you sit down for meditation, especially in Amrit Vela. If that person comes in your mind, then there is something. Why should they come in your mind in Amrit Vela if there isn't something? So then in that case, you be neutral. Okay, they came in my mind, so neutrally let them go. and bring your mind to Baba. But do not deceive yourself that, oh, there isn't anything. There is something, but be neutral and let it go. There's nothing wrong with the fact that there's something, because we have many, many karmic accounts. It becomes wrong only if we call it something else than what it is, or we find an excuse to sustain it. Then it's not right. Then it becomes impurity, you see. But if something is there, maybe sometimes we have a very strong karmic account, and the person is all the time there. It starts as an attraction, and later on it becomes a repulsion. This is the nature of the thing. Impurity is like that, attraction and repulsion. Purity is connected with neutrality. And so you develop within yourself the attitude, the drishti, the feeling of neutrality towards that person. And you make sure that you do not allow yourself to have any negative thought. Negative thought means a thought of dependence, a thought of desire, a thought of wanting them to be something other than what they are, a thought of anger against that person, blaming, any of those things. They are impurity. And so we say, okay, that impulse arose in the mind, but I do not sustain it. I do not follow it through. I say, okay, now allow it to just sink back where it came from. And turn the mind again and again to the self as a soul, the respect for the self as an instrument of Baba, that Baba, it's me and you. Baba, you are my world, you see. So that eventually you find that it's as if you are totally alone. Very, very easy interaction with anybody and everybody. Whether they're high or low or good or bad, doesn't actually matter. In a sense, it's really none of your business. Your business is that how am I interacting? So when different people are there, we interact harmoniously, correctly. When they're not there, they're not there. Out of sight, out of mind. In the sense that we remain just I and Baba. That is the quality of a king. A king is alone. Now some people, they will say, oh, it's lonely at the top, you need me. I say, excuse me, I have Baba. You need Baba. I don't need you. I know. Because people will try to influence you and involve you in them or whatever. Because we are very spiritually strong people. And some others who cannot make a direct connection with Baba, they try and connect with someone who's connected with Baba and they feed on them. This is a form of lust. Because lust means you taking the energy of another person and sustaining yourself with that. And so this is why the lust between people is very, very depleting, because empty people feeding on other empty people makes you very, very empty. And then that emptiness is expressed in animosity. This is why these intimate relations become filled with violence and aggressive words. So the royalty of purity, even if you are married with someone, you're living together in the same room, you see them day and night, still you have to be very, very respectful of the other person. Respect the soul. And make yourself so soul conscious that the other person doesn't notice that there is a body there. They see your being. You do not provoke them by attracting them. You do not provoke them by criticizing them or shaming them or any of those unroyal things. You maintain your royalty, your purity, your respectfulness, and there will be very beautiful and harmonious relationships. You may be in the center, living together with people. It is no different than a family, Lokik family or Alokik family. It's still family. You're still with people day and night. And the key is to always be very respectful of the other person, regardless of what their behavior is. Because if we are reactive, then we get into a karmic account. If we are respectful, maintaining our self-respect and respecting the other in a very royal way, our words, our interaction, our giving people their space, all of the things that are involved in very close relationships, we need to be very skillful in that. But at no time can we allow ourselves to have expectations of the other one. Because as soon as we have an expectation, it's like we're feeding from them. We're not sustaining ourselves from Baba. So Baba has made himself available to us so that he can sustain us emotionally, socially, physically, mentally, spiritually, psychologically. In every possible way, Baba is there. And this is why Baba says, have all relations with me, because relationship means you give to me. And there's a reciprocity involved too, you see. Why do we offer bhog to Baba? It's an acknowledgement of the reciprocal nature of our relationship with Baba. You see, Baba is feeding us. And we are doing the preparation, the offering, the eating of that with Baba. And acknowledging that, yes, Baba, you are my sustainer. You see, and if we don't acknowledge it, if we don't reciprocate, then you take, and eventually, according to the laws of karma, there's a point where you cannot take anymore. Sometimes people make this mistake. They come to Gyan, they say, oh, all I have to do is, open myself up and Baba will fill, and then after a while he doesn't fill anymore. What happened? Why doesn't he like me anymore? What is going on? But we didn't reciprocate. So there is an expression in Hindi, Preet ki reet. Reet means the rite, the English word rite, R-I-T-E, from which you get rituals. So when there is love, then there are certain things involved in the give and take. There has to be a constant give and take, otherwise the love will run out very quickly. If it's just take and no give, it'll fizzle out. So in order for us to intensify and increase our various relationships with Baba, we need to become skilled in this reciprocity. And this is also something to understand in terms of doing service. We say we will do Baba's service. If we say, I want to do the service that I decide, then it's not Baba's service, that's you want to do something for yourself, that's the I-ness. And Baba had mentioned very clearly that this I has to go. The sense of I, mepan, is an impurity and is a non-royalty. It's very unroyal. That I did it, and what I say, that's right, what I think, that's right, my opinion, my idea, all these things, the I and the mine. Of course, we don't have mine anymore, everything is Baba's, but still there's a little bit. You say, this is my Baba's car. It's not just Baba's car. It's not my Baba's car, but it's my Baba's car, and that's your Baba's car. It's different, you see. And so this I, sense of I-ness, is again part of that hunger. I want. I'm doing service because then I will go ahead, and it becomes competitive, you see. It's not royal. Royal is whatever service is coming for me to do, let it be done. Or if someone else comes in the middle and says, no, okay, do. You see, this rite or this ritual that is part of the Brahman culture, Brahman civilization, of giving respect and regard to the opinions and ideas of the others. It's the process of building consensus. It doesn't mean that, you have to give up everything and never say a word. No, you have to be the master when it comes to proposing something. And maybe that proposal, its time hasn't come. Maybe it's a very, very good proposal, but the others don't see it. And they'll say, no, this is what we're going to do, this other thing. So, okay. If you have this is my idea, you will feel bad. When you feel bad, it means some impurity is there. So are you getting clarification about this royalty? This purity, these two words which come up again and again, but which are sometimes not quite clear. Are you? Do you have any question? No question. You have a question. You have to speak loudly. The subject of familiarity. Yes. Daddy had mentioned familiarity. You see, the thing is this. In this world, there are different cultures. The Asian culture, African culture, American culture, European culture. And in these cultures, there are different cultural norms in regard to closeness between people. And what is called familiarity here may feel very strange to someone who doesn't have that in their culture, and they may not be quite clear what is meant by familiarity. But even so, in English, there is an expression that familiarity breeds contempt. Have you heard that? Familiarity breeds contempt. It's a saying that maybe about 50 years ago people used to use quite a lot, but perhaps now they don't, but it exists. And you have to understand that when a person wants to get too close or spend too much time with you, when it crosses a certain line and it goes from much to too much, there'll be a vibration. And you will feel something not quite right. It's quite important to listen to our intuition in this regard. when someone just wants to hang around you. Right? Have you experienced that? They just want to be around you. And you feel just a tiny little bit irritated. Have you experienced that? This is because they want to feed on your whatever it is that they're attracted by, whether it's your voice or whether it's your wealth or whether it's whatever it is you've got, they want. And they're not taking from Baba. Then this is called familiarity. You see? It can be that some are spending a lot of time with someone, but there isn't familiarity because they're not trying to get something from the other person, you see. And familiarity can be there if, say, somebody's physically too close. Because when somebody's physically very close, they will get some sexual satisfaction from that. Yeah? And that's familiarity. And so then you need to keep a reasonable distance. Now, we're not going to go into feet and inches here. But physical proximity, where if you may not be touching another person, but you're near another person and it's too close, you feel invaded, you see. Or you feel this feeding is taking place. Someone is taking your energy. Then there's familiarity, you see. Or sometimes someone, if you're sitting down and someone is over you, too close, too much, again, they're getting something from you. Physical energy, sexual energy is operating there. So then you have to find a way to establish acceptable distance, what's comfortable for you, you see. And you have to be ready to assert your right to not have your space invaded or your time invaded. So you need to be skillful about letting a person know that that's close enough, that's time enough, thank you very much, see you later. And just figure it out in your own mind, some ways, Like, for example, on the bus, going backwards and forwards between Gyan Sarovar and Pandav Bhavan on the bus. Nobody is going to tell you anything, but sisters and brothers, these are very small seats. And it's very difficult to sit next to somebody without being squashed into them, you see. And so it's a custom that the brothers sit on the back seat or the very front seat near the driver, and the sisters sit together on the middle seats. That's the custom, because then that decorum is maintained, you see. Sometimes it's not possible, so okay, but then even then you try to make sure that nobody's taking advantage of the situation to get up, snuggle up too close. We don't need that, thank you very much. You know what I mean? And sometimes with words, people will start getting into conversations and steering the conversation, and it gets a little bit too personal. And whenever it crosses a certain line, that line is called Maryada. And when it crosses that line, you will feel, hey, they're trying to get too personal with me. So then you have to find within yourself the suitable body language and words to end the conversation, take it to another direction, but you need to understand that that's what's going on. This familiarity is going on, and you don't need that. Now, suppose you like that, and the other one likes that, and then you're going to start explaining to each other how this is okay. but there'll still be a vibration that is not okay. You see? But that's, two souls with their two impurities getting together and having some more impurity, that's familiarity. You see, and this is why in today's Murli, Baba was saying, be careful of company. Because company, we souls are very easily influenced by things. And suppose there's somebody who's coming along and being very, super Brahman, very impressive, but underneath there's something else going on, you see. You have to be able to not get impressed by whatever the impressive thing is, because that's their ticket for getting in too close. But you have to know that that ticket is a fake ticket. That's a counterfeit money, and we don't want that. You see. Because once it gets too close, then confusion comes and how to come out of it. And then you say, oh, well, if I am strong with this person, then it'll be giving them sorrow. That's not giving sorrow, that's maintaining your maryadas. And even if somebody takes it badly, it's not as bad as you getting into trouble. So then in that case, you don't worry about whether it's giving sorrow or not, you see. Because you're not actually doing anything to give sorrow, you are simply establishing your boundaries. And it's very, very important to set your boundaries and understand that you have a right to those boundaries and maintain those boundaries. And if someone wants to cross those boundaries, thank you very much, go away, But if your connection with Baba is very strong, your soul consciousness is very strong, your purity and your royalty is very strong, they will not be able to cross the maryada of the bubble. And Baba has sometimes said, keep yourself inside a bubble. They won't be able to cross that bubble. They'll only be able to cross if you are open. So don't be unnecessarily open. And if you're open, then why are you open? What do you want? Some people, according to the way that they have been raised, their boundaries are broken by circumstances, by their family or whatever. Then when you come in Gyan, then you have to build boundaries. Some people, they have them naturally. But you need to be able to know, am I a person who has natural boundaries, or did my boundaries get broken? Anyone who has experienced child molestation or anything like that, they don't have boundaries, so they have to build them. So that has to be done. But whatever it is, if you have to do it, do it. If they're already there, then maintain them. And if you don't know how to build them, just be patient and be with Baba, and the Brahman family will give you the messages that this is where the boundaries are supposed to be, and then you gradually build them. You had a question? Yes, I don't know if everyone heard that sometimes it seems more challenging to establish boundaries with the people in the worldly environment. But I think that be prepared for people who feel like crossing your boundaries to express their displeasure at your boundaries. Because, in a sense, they have a right to, to test your boundaries and to try and break them and push them. They do have that right. But do not be put off by the fact that somebody isn't immediately understanding what your boundaries are. Just establish them. You don't have to be defensive, you don't have to be aggressive. But you just know in your mind, these are my boundaries, and command respect of those boundaries. See, because they will always try and get you to pull down your boundaries, just to see, are they real boundaries or is this fake? Yeah. And they'll get angry with you or ridicule you or whatever. Don't worry about that. Know what your boundaries are, decide what your boundaries are, and maintain them, and they will eventually respect them. But if they are not, or if you don't give them the right to bang on your walls and see if they fall down, then they will just think that you're weak. But if you let them bang as much as they want, but you aren't going to bring it down, and at the same time you're not being defensive and you're not being aggressive, it's just this is how we do it here, you know. And position yourself in such a way that you're giving the message at all times, and then they will get the message. That, you know, no, I don't eat out of your plate and you don't eat out of mine. That's a Maryada also. Or, yeah, I'm going to sit on this chair. I really don't need to snuggle up with 6 people on the sofa. Thank you very much. If you want to do it, that's up to you, but this is me. You know, it's a very important part of your own self-respect, that this is who I am, take it or leave it. You know? But still without being aggressive, without being defensive, but still you give that message. This is self-respect. Baba has so much respect for us. We must have that much respect for ourselves. Otherwise, it means that we are sometimes this, sometimes that. And again comes into these double standards. And once you establish what it is that you are, and once people have respected it, they will expect you to maintain that. And if you don't, they will lose their respect for you. Because purity, or the royalty of purity, and part of the royalty of purity is not being defensive or aggressive, but being just, this is me, this is how I am. If you don't like it, it's too bad. This is what I am. But not being angry about it or, you know, afraid. Just, it's a kind of assertiveness that you assert, this is who I am, and that's that. Because you know that it's good and it's correct, and if somebody doesn't like it, it's not that they don't like it, it's that they want to know, is it real? Because they want to be able to respect something real. They don't want something unreal, you see. That's part of our ability to fulfill the high expectations of another person, and our naturally in place boundaries are a very important part of that self-respect and that commanding respect of others. And once they have understood that, you will find that whatever you speak about spirituality, because you're living that way, they will hear and understand what you're saying, and they will respect it. And you will experience that they look at you as being a person who really has the royalty of purity. It's a good thing. It doesn't exist hardly in this world. And people are really looking for someone that they can hold in high esteem. Because otherwise this whole world is full of disappointments. You know, you think someone's a high status, you find they're corrupt and this is wrong and that is wrong, and they're having brothels and orgies and all this stuff underneath, and it's not real. It's just glitter but no gold. Whereas we are gold, we are what we are. Inside, outside, top, bottom, left, right, here, not here, out in the world, in white, in colors, whatever it is, we are what we are. That is royalty of purity. It's very substanceful, and very strong, so people can have faith in it. They need something that they can have faith in. And they won't be having faith in pictures and lectures and all that stuff. They want the real thing, and they want to be able to knock on it to see whether it holds up. And then they have that right. Yeah? Okay, so let's